The explosion happened so fast my brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. 1 second, I was wiping down tables at Brewhaven, my third shift of the day because rent doesn't pay itself. The next, the world was fire and glass and screaming. The device had been planted under the outdoor seating area. Small, professional, timed to detonate at exactly 2:47 p.m., when the lunch rush peaked. When the sidewalk cafe would be packed with corporate types from the financial district, all expensive suits and expensive watches and expensive lives. I'd been inside when it went off. The shockwave hit me like a physical wall, sending me stumbling backward into the espresso machine. My ears rang with a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything else. Through the shattered front window, I could see chaos tables overturned, people screaming, running, bleeding. And one man, still seated. He sat at what had been the corner table, the one furthest from the blast but still in the danger zone. Tall, dark-haired, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. He was trying to stand, but I could see blood streaming down the side of his face from a head wound. Could see the way he swayed, disoriented. Could see the secondary device strapped to the underside of his table, red light blinking with increasing speed. My body moved before my brain caught up. I didn't think about the danger. Didn't think about the fact that I was a 2-3-year-old barista with $127 in my bank account and no business playing hero. Didn't think about anything except that blinking light and what it meant. I ran. The front door was blocked by debris. I went through the shattered window instead, my worn sneakers crunching on broken glass. 12 feet. That's how far it was from where I'd been standing to where he sat, bleeding and confused. 12 feet that felt like 12 miles. Dive down, the words tore from my throat, hoarse and desperate. The man looked up, his eyes gray, I noticed, gray like storm clouds finding mine with confusion. He didn't understand. How could he? People like him, people in $1,000 suits who sat in coffee shops in the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday, they didn't know what bombs sounded like. Didn't know that ticking noise that your ears learned to recognize when you grew up in neighborhoods where violence was a language everyone spoke. I crashed into him like a freight train. My shoulder caught him in the chest. My arms wrapped around his torso. My momentum carried us both backward, away from the table, away from that blinking red light that was accelerating toward detonation. We hit the pavement hard. I twisted mid-fall, every instinct screaming one command. Put your body between him and the blast. Make yourself the shield. Make yourself the wall. The second explosion was bigger than the first. The table disintegrated. Shrapnel nails, ball bearings, metal fragments designed to shred human flesh erupted outward in a lethal sphere. I felt the impact across my back, my shoulders, my arms. Felt dozens of small punctures, like being stung by 100 wasps simultaneously. Pain bloomed hot and immediate. But beneath me, warm and alive and trembling with shock, the stranger was breathing, was whole, was safe. I'd done it right. Don't move. The man's voice cut through the ringing in my ears, deeper than I expected, rough with something that sounded like command. You're hurt. There's God. There's so much blood. Blood. Right. That would explain why my back felt like it was on fire. I tried to push myself up, to check if he was really okay, but my arms had stopped taking orders from my brain. Everything felt distant and wrong, like I was underwater or wrapped in cotton. Stay down. His hands were on my face now, and even through the shock and pain, I noticed they were surprisingly gentle for someone so obviously powerful. Help is coming. Just stay with me. Are you okay? I heard myself ask, though the words came out slurred. Did you get hit? I'm fine. You covered me completely. Something in his voice cracked. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Because someone had to, I thought. Because I saw the bomb, and I saw you, and my body just moved. Because for the first time in my invisible, insignificant life, I'd been in the right place at the right moment to actually matter. But I didn't say any of that. Couldn't say it, because the gray edges were eating my vision and my tongue felt too heavy. Seemed like the thing to do, I managed instead. Then the darkness rushed in like a tide, and I let it take me. The last thing I felt was his hand still on my face, still anchoring me to consciousness. The last thing I heard was his voice, rough with something that sounded like desperation. Someone get help. I need medical, now. This boy just saved my life, don't let him die for it. But I was already gone, drowning in black, with the taste of copper in my mouth and the weight of a stranger's life measured in the scattered shrapnel embedded in my back. What I couldn't know as consciousness slipped away was that the hands holding me belonged to Dominic Cross, CEO of CrossGen Pharmaceuticals. What I couldn't know was that his company was worth $47 billion, that he employed 50,000 people across 6 continents, that he was one of the 10 most powerful men in North America. What I couldn't know was that the bombing had been meticulously planned by his corporate rivals, that I'd just interfered with an assassination 6 months in the making, that saving his life had painted a target on my own back that would never fully disappear. What I couldn't know was that Dominic Cross never forgot a debt. And what I definitely couldn't know was that when the medical team arrived and started cataloging my injuries, they would discover something I'd been hiding my entire adult life. That beneath the suppressing drugs and the careful lies and the beta designation on all my legal documents, I was an omega, a rare one. The kind that appeared in medical journals and research papers, the kind that Dominic Cross's company had been searching for over a decade. I couldn't know any of this because I was unconscious, bleeding out on a Seattle sidewalk, held in the arms of a stranger whose life I'd just saved. But I'd learn. Soon enough, I'd learn everything. And by then, it would be too late to run. I woke to the sound of machines beeping and the smell of antiseptic that burned the inside of my nose. Hospital. Had to be. The steady rhythm of monitors, the scratchy sheets, the way every inch of my body felt like it had been run through a meat grinder, all familiar sensations from the one other time I'd ended up in an ER when I was 19 and hadn't had health insurance. I still didn't have health insurance. Panic spiked through me, cutting through the fog of whatever painkillers they had me on. Hospital bills would destroy me. I barely made enough to cover rent and suppressants as it was. Medical debt would follow me for the rest of my life, garnish my wages, ruin any chance of... Easy. Don't try to sit up. The voice came from my right, smooth and controlled, but with an edge of concern that felt genuine. I turned my head, even that small movement sent pain shooting down my neck, and found myself looking at a man I'd never seen before. He sat in the chair beside my bed like he had every right to be there, dressed in a dark suit that screamed expensive, even to my untrained eye. Mid-30s, maybe, with sharp features and pale blue eyes that assessed me with unsettling intensity. His hair was styled with the kind of precision that required a personal barber, and his watch probably cost more than my car. If I'd had a car. Who are you? My voice came out as a croak, throat raw from screaming or smoke or both. Sterling Vaughn, head of security for CrossGen Pharmaceuticals. He leaned forward slightly, hands clasped between his knees. How are you feeling? CrossGen. The name triggered memory. The man I'd saved, the expensive suit, the way people had moved when he'd shouted for help like his word was law. The guy from the coffee shop, I said. Is he okay? Did he? Mr. Cross is fine. Not a scratch on him, thanks to you. Sterling's expression was unreadable. You took all the shrapnel meant for him. 37 pieces, to be exact. Doctors spent 6 hours extracting them. 37. Jesus. How long have I been out? 14 hours. You coded twice during surgery, but they got you stable. Sterling pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Mr. Cross has been waiting for you to wake up. He'll want to know you're conscious. Wait. I tried to sit up again, ignoring the way my entire back screamed in protest. I can't. I don't have insurance. I can't afford this. The surgery, the hospital stay, I need to... Already handled. I stared at him. What? Medical expenses, rehabilitation, medications, everything's covered. Sterling's tone suggested this was obvious. Mr. Cross doesn't leave debts unpaid. You saved his life. The least he can do is ensure you survive saving it. The relief that washed through me was so intense it made me dizzy. Or maybe that was the painkillers. I don't know what to say. Thank you is traditional. A hint of a smile touched Sterling's face, gone almost before I registered it. Though, Mr. Cross will want to thank you personally once the doctors clear you for visitors. I nodded, suddenly exhausted despite having slept for 14 hours. My eyes were starting to drift closed when Sterling spoke again, his voice dropping to something quieter, more serious. The medical team found something during your treatment, something you've been hiding. My heart stopped. No, 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 no. You're an Omega, Sterling said, watching me with those unsettling pale eyes. But your legal documentation lists you as Beta. Your prescription records show you've been obtaining suppressants through creative channels. No bonding mark, no registered pack or alpha, no heat management protocol on file anywhere. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This was it. This was everything I'd been running from for 5 years collapsing around me. I won't report you, Sterling continued, and the relief was almost painful. Your designation status isn't my business, but you should know that Mr. Cross is aware. The surgical team had to inform him your biology affected the anesthesia protocols, the healing process. They needed his authorization to proceed with certain treatments. He knows. My voice was barely a whisper. Yes. What's he going to do? Sterling stood, adjusting his cuffs with precise movements. That's between you and him. But for what it's worth, he paused at the door. Dominic Cross is many things. Ruthless, brilliant, dangerous to his enemies, but he's not the type to exploit someone's vulnerability, especially not someone who saved his life. He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut with a finality that made my chest tight. I lay there in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling tiles, and tried not to panic. 5 years. 5 years of carefully maintained lies, of buying suppressants from underground clinics that didn't ask questions, of living as a beta because living as an unbound omega was asking to be claimed by the first alpha who caught your scent. My designation had cost me everything once already. A full scholarship to Berkeley, lost when I presented as omega at 18. The university's policies were clear. Omegas required bonded alpha guardianship or pack sponsorship to attend. I'd had neither. The scholarship had been revoked. My future had collapsed overnight. So I'd disappeared. Changed my name from Kai Morrison to Kai Mercer. Moved to Seattle. Found a doctor who would prescribe suppressants without filing the proper documentation. Built a new life where I was invisible, unremarkable, safe. And now a stranger new. A powerful stranger. One who could destroy everything I'd built with a single phone call to the right government office. I was still spiraling when the door opened again. The man who entered wasn't Sterling. He was taller, broader through the shoulders, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it too many times. The charcoal suit was different, clean, undamaged, but I recognized his face immediately. Gray eyes. The color of storm clouds. The man I'd saved? Dominic Cross stopped just inside the door, his gaze traveling over me with an intensity that made me want to squirm, or hide, or both. You're awake. His voice was the same as I remembered, that deep, rough timbre that sounded like command wrapped in velvet. Good. The doctors said it would be another few hours at least. I didn't know what to say, didn't know the etiquette for this situation. So I just stared at him, acutely aware of how I must look hospital gown, unwashed hair, probably pale as death with monitors attached to every available surface. He pulled the chair Sterling had vacated closer to the bed and sat with controlled grace. Up close, I could see the evidence of the bombing, a healing cut above his left eyebrow, bruising along his jaw, the faint shadows under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I got hit by shrapnel. The words came out sharper than I intended, because I did. Something flickered in his expression. Guilt, maybe, or respect for the attitude. The doctors say you'll make a full recovery. No permanent damage, though you'll have scars. Great. Always wanted a souvenir. This time the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. You have a name? Kai. I hesitated, then added, Mercer. Kai Mercer. He said it slowly, like he was tasting the syllables. I'm Dominic Cross, head of CrossGen Pharmaceuticals, Sterling told me. Did he also tell you that you saved my life? I figured that part out on my own. I shifted against the pillows, wincing. Wasn't exactly subtle with the bomb under your table. Dominic was quiet for a moment, studying me with those gray eyes that seemed to see too much. Why did you do it? You didn't know me. You could have run, gotten yourself to safety. Instead, you ran toward danger, toward me. Because I saw the bomb, and I saw you, and my body just moved, I thought. But I couldn't say that. Couldn't explain the instinct that had overridden every survival mechanism I'd spent years developing. Seemed like the thing to do, I said instead, echoing what I'd told him before everything went dark. That's the same thing you said before you lost consciousness. Dominic leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and I caught his scent for the first time. Cedar and smoke and something darker underneath. Alpha. Powerful one, too, if the way my hindbrain wanted to pay attention was any indication. Even through the suppressants, even in this sterile hospital room, I could smell him, which meant he could probably smell me. Sterling said, "You know," I said quietly, "about what I am?" "Yes." "Are you going to report me?" "No." No hesitation, no qualification, just a flat statement of fact. I exhaled, some of the tension leaving my shoulders. "Why not?" "Because your designation is your business." Dominic's expression was unreadable. "And because you saved my life. I don't repay that by destroying yours. But you could, if you wanted to." "I could do a lot of things." His voice dropped lower. "I could call immigration and have them verify your identification. I could contact the medical board about your prescription irregularities. I could make your life very difficult, Kai Mercer." My heart hammered against my ribs. "But I won't," Dominic continued, "because you threw yourself on a bomb for a stranger, because you have 37 pieces of shrapnel scattered across your medical file. Because, when given the choice between self-preservation and saving someone else, you chose wrong." "Wrong? You should have run. Any sane person would have." His jaw tightened. "Instead, you ran toward me, covered me with your own body, nearly died making sure I lived. So what happens now?" Dominic stood, straightening his cuffs in a gesture that reminded me of Sterling. "Now you heal. The hospital bill is covered. All of it. When you're discharged, we'll discuss the future." "What future?" He paused at the door, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. "The one where someone tried to kill me and failed because of you. The one where they'll almost certainly try again. The one where you're now connected to me, whether either of us planned for it." Fear spiked cold through my chest. "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "I'm saying that saving my life made you visible to people who operate in the dark. People who don't like loose ends." Dominic's voice was grim. "So yes, Kai, you're in danger, which is why we need to talk about protection." "I don't need protection. I can take care of myself." "Can you?" He tilted his head slightly. "How much do you know about corporate espionage? About hired assassins? About the kind of people who plant bombs in crowded coffee shops?" I had no answer for that. "That's what I thought." Dominic opened the door, then paused. "Get some rest. We'll talk when you're stronger. But know this, I protect what's mine. And like it or not, you're mine now. You made yourself mine the moment you decided my life was worth saving." He left before I could process that statement, the door clicking shut with a finality that made my stomach drop. Mine. What the hell did that mean? I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, and tried not to think about gray eyes and cedar scent and the way my traitorous omega hindbrain had perked up at being claimed by an alpha I didn't even know. This was bad. This was very, very bad. And somehow, I knew it was only going to get worse. 3 days later, I was discharged into a world I didn't recognize. Sterling appeared at 7 a.m. with clothes that actually fit jeans, a soft gray Henley, a jacket that looked expensive but felt comfortable. Not mine. Couldn't be mine. Everything I owned came from thrift stores and clearance racks. "Mr. Cross had these sent," Sterling said when he saw my expression. "Your apartment was compromised. We retrieved some personal items, but most of your clothes were unsuitable." "Unsuitable for what?" "For where you're going." 20 minutes later, I was in the back of a black SUV with windows so heavily tinted I could barely see out. Sterling drove with the kind of precision that suggested military training. We didn't head toward my apartment in the University District. Instead, we went north, into the hills where houses disappeared behind gates and privacy hedges. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere safe." That's not an answer. Sterling glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Cross's estate. He has a secure facility there. 24-hour security, medical staff on site, everything you'll need while you recover." "I don't need to recover at a stranger's house. I can go home." "Your home is a studio apartment with one exit, ground floor windows, and a door that can be kicked in with minimal effort." Sterling's voice was flat. 3 days ago, someone tried to kill Mr. Cross with a sophisticated two-stage bomb. They failed because of you. Do you really think they won't come looking for the person who interfered? My stomach dropped. You think they'll come after me? I know they will. We found surveillance footage from the week before the bombing. Someone was watching Mr. Cross's patterns, documenting where he went, when, who he interacted with. You appeared in 17 different frames across 4 days. You're identifiable. They know you saved him. So what am I supposed to do? Hide forever? No. You're supposed to let us protect you while we find who ordered the hit and neutralize the threat. Sterling turned onto a private road, pulling up to a gate that looked like it could stop a tank. After that, you can go back to your life. But right now, staying visible means staying vulnerable. The gate opened. We drove through onto an estate that looked like something from a magazine. Manicured lawns, a house that was more mansion than home, trees that provided both beauty and strategic cover. And standing on the front steps, hands in his pockets, was Dominic Cross. He looked different in daylight, less corporate titan, more human. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that probably cost a fortune but looked casual. His hair was slightly mussed, and the healing cut above his eyebrow was visible without the hospital's harsh lighting softening it. Sterling parked, got out, opened my door like I was someone important instead of a barista who'd gotten lucky and stupid. Welcome, Dominic said as I climbed out, moving carefully because my back still ached. How are you feeling? Like I got blown up saving a stranger who apparently lives in a fortress. That almost smile touched his face again. Come inside. We need to talk. The interior of the house was exactly what I expected. Expensive, minimalist, designed by someone who valued clean lines and statement pieces. But there were small touches that felt personal. Books on shelves that looked actually read, a coffee mug on the side table with a ring stain, a jacket draped over a chair like it had been forgotten. Dominic led me to an office that was all windows and natural light. He gestured to a leather chair. I sat, and he settled behind his desk, the position putting us in clearly defined roles. Him, powerful, in control, the man who owned everything in sight. Me, small, recovering, dependent on his protection. I hated it. Sterling briefed you on the situation, Dominic said. It wasn't a question. He said people might want me dead because I saved you. That's a hell of a thank you. It's the reality of the world I operate in. Dominic leaned back in his chair, studying me with those gray eyes. CrossGen isn't just a pharmaceutical company. We hold patents on life-saving medications worth billions. We have research into treatments that could revolutionize medicine. That makes us valuable. It also makes us a target. Who planted the bomb? We're still investigating. But the device was professional grade, expensive, the kind of thing that requires funding and expertise. His jaw tightened. The kind of thing corporate espionage operations use when they want to eliminate competition. So one of your competitors tried to kill you. Multiple competitors would benefit from my death. CrossGen's value would crater if I died suddenly. Stock would plummet. Key partnerships would dissolve. Whoever orchestrated this was banking on chaos. I processed that. And I fucked up their plan. Completely, which makes you a loose end they'll want to tie up. Great. I slumped in the chair, ignoring the way my back protested. So what now? I hide here until you catch them? That could take months. It will take weeks at most. I have resources most people can't imagine. Dominic stood, moving to the window. Sterling is the best security operative on the West Coast. My intelligence team is already analyzing footage, tracking financial movements, running down leads. We'll find them. And then? He looked back at me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. Then I ensure they never threaten anyone I care about again. Care about. He'd said care about. You don't know me, I said quietly. You don't care about me. You threw yourself on a bomb for me. That earns care. That's just debt. Call it what you want. Dominic moved closer, and I caught his scent again, cedar and smoke and alpha. But the fact remains, you're under my protection now. This estate is secure. You'll have your own room, access to medical care, anything you need. In exchange, you stay here until the threat is neutralized. What if I say no? Then you're free to leave. I won't force you. His voice dropped. But you should know that 2 days ago, someone broke into your apartment. They trashed it. Looking for something, probably. Information, leverage, a way to find you. My heart stopped. My apartment. Sterling's team cleaned it up. Your landlord has been compensated for damages. But Kai, he crouched down so we were eye level. They know where you live. They know who you are. If you go back there, you're making yourself an easy target. I stared at him, hating that he was right, hating that I had no good options, hating that 3 days ago I'd been invisible and safe, and now I was neither. How long? I asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And after that? After that, you can go back to your life. I'll ensure you have security if you want it, but you'll be free. Dominic stood. This isn't a cage, Kai. It's protection. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could handle myself, but the truth was, I couldn't. I didn't know the first thing about corporate espionage or assassination attempts or any of this. Okay, I said finally. 2 weeks. Then I go home. Agreed. Sterling appeared to show me to my room, a guest suite that was bigger than my entire apartment, with a bathroom that had heated floors and a shower that could fit 4 people. My few rescued belongings sat on the bed, my laptop, some clothes, the photo of my mom I kept on my nightstand. Dinner is at 7, Sterling said. Mr. Cross prefers to eat in the formal dining room when he has guests. Dress code is casual, but neat. I don't have anything neat. Check the closet. I did. Found it full of clothes in my size, all new, all expensive, jeans that actually fit, shirts in soft fabrics, even shoes that looked comfortable and well-made. He bought me a wardrobe? Mr. Cross is thorough. Sterling headed for the door. If you need anything, there's a phone by the bed. Extension 7 reaches me. Extension 1 reaches Mr. Cross. He left me alone in luxury I'd never imagined, surrounded by things that cost more than I made in a year, and all I could think was, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Dinner was awkward. The formal dining room seated 12, but there were only 2 places set, one at the head of the table, one to the right. Dominic appeared at exactly 7, changed into dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked unfairly good. I tried not to notice. I thought it would be just us, he said, pulling out my chair before I could do it myself. More comfortable than the full dining setup. This is the casual version? You should see what formal looks like. Dinner was salmon with asparagus and rice, cooked by someone who clearly knew what they were doing, better than anything I'd eaten in months, maybe years. We ate in silence for a few minutes before Dominic spoke. Tell me about yourself. I looked up from my plate. Why? Because you're living in my house, and I know almost nothing about you beyond the fact that you're brave and terrible at self-preservation. There's not much to tell. I'm 23, I work at Brewhaven, lived in Seattle for 5 years. Before Seattle? Berkeley, California. I pushed rice around my plate. I had a scholarship, lost it when things changed. Understanding flickered in his eyes. When you presented. Yeah. That's why you hide it, why you've been living as beta. It's easier this way, safer. I met his gaze. I'm sure you know all about Omega rights and protections. How we're supposed to register with the state, have Alpha Guardians or PAC sponsorship, how we're not allowed to work certain jobs or live alone or make our own medical decisions. Archaic laws that should have been repealed decades ago. But they haven't been. So Omegas like me have 2 choices, submit to the system or disappear into it. I took a drink of water. I chose disappear. Dominic was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I think that took more courage than most people have. Or more desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. We finished dinner with easier conversation. He asked about my favorite books. I asked about his work. Learned that he'd built CrossGen from almost nothing, that his parents had died when he was 25 and left him with medical debt and determination. I wanted to make sure no one else went through what they did, he said. Watching them suffer because they couldn't afford treatment, it changes you. So you built an empire. I built a company that makes medicine affordable. The empire part was mostly accidental. I almost smiled. Accidentally became a billionaire? The money was never the point. The point was saving lives. His eyes found mine, which is something we have in common. Heat crept up my neck. I'm not a hero. You threw yourself on a bomb. What would you call that? Stupid. I'd call it heroic. Dominic stood, began clearing plates. Come on, I'll show you the rest of the estate. The grounds were massive. We walked through gardens that looked professionally maintained, past a pool house that was nicer than most actual houses, around a koi pond that probably cost more than my education would have. This is where you live? I asked, trying to wrap my head around the scale. Where I exist, Dominic corrected. Living would require spending time here. Mostly, I sleep here and work everywhere else. Sounds lonely. He glanced at me. It is. Something in his voice made my chest tight. This man had everything: money, power, success, and he was lonely. It didn't compute with the image I'd built of billionaire CEOs. We ended up at a terrace overlooking the city. Seattle spread below us in a carpet of lights, beautiful and distant. I need to tell you something, Dominic said, leaning against the railing. About why this happened. About why someone wanted me dead. I waited. CrossGen has been working on a treatment for a specific medical condition for the past decade, something that affects a small population but has devastating consequences. He paused. We're close to a breakthrough, maybe 6 months away from clinical trials. What kind of treatment? For omegas. Specifically for omegas who present late or have irregular biology. His eyes met mine. Your medical files from the hospital showed something unusual. Your hormone levels, your response to anesthesia, the way your body processed the trauma, it's all consistent with a rare omega subtype we've been studying. My stomach dropped. What are you saying? I'm saying you might be exactly the kind of omega our research has been focused on, the kind we've been trying to help. And that's a coincidence? That I saved you and I happen to be this rare type? I don't believe in coincidences. Dominic turned to face me fully. But I also don't believe in exploitation. Whatever your biology is, whatever value it might have to my research, I'm not going to use you. That's not why you're here. Then why tell me? Because honesty matters. Because you deserve to know why someone might want you specifically if they discover what you are. He ran a hand through his hair. The bombing wasn't random, Kai. Whoever did it knew exactly when and where to strike. They had inside information, which means someone at CrossGen is feeding them intelligence. You have a mole. Yes. And until I find them, everyone connected to me is at risk, including you. I process this, my mind racing. So I'm here because I'm in danger and because I might be medically interesting? You're here because I owe you my life, and I protect what's mine. Dominic's voice was firm. Everything else is secondary. There it was again. Mine. I'm not yours, I said quietly. Aren't you? He stepped closer, and I caught his scent stronger now, without suppressants to fully mask my response. You saved my life. That creates a bond, whether we want it or not. In my world, in the world you stepped into when you dove on that bomb, debts mean something. Loyalty means something. And you earned both. I didn't ask for this. No one asks for their life to change. It just does. His hand lifted like he might touch my face, then dropped. Get some rest. Tomorrow, Sterling will brief you on security protocols. The day after, I'd like you to meet with my medical team. Voluntarily, he added. If you agree. Why? Because if you are the subtype we think you are, you might be experiencing health issues you've attributed to other causes. We can help. No obligations, no strings. Just proper medical care you've probably been denied for years. The offer was tempting. More tempting than it should be. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I ask. We walked back to the house in silence. At my door, Dominic paused. Thank you for staying. I know this isn't easy. Thank you for not making it a cage. Something flickered in his expression. It never will be. You have my word. He left me there, and I went into my too large room and collapsed on my too comfortable bed and tried to figure out what the hell I was doing. The answer, as always, was surviving. Just in a much nicer cage than I was used to. The next morning, Sterling began my education in staying alive. Corporate assassination attempts follow patterns, he said, leading me through the estate's security center, a room full of monitors and computers that looked like something from a spy movie. They probe defenses first, test responses, look for weaknesses. Like bombing a coffee shop? That wasn't a probe. That was an execution attempt. Sterling pulled up footage on one of the monitors. This is from 6 days before the bombing. I watched myself on screen, serving coffee at Brewhaven. Normal day, normal routine, nothing special. Then a man in a business suit entered the frame. He ordered something, waited, left. But before he went, he glanced toward the outdoor seating, specifically at the table Dominic would later occupy. He's scouting, Sterling explained, looking at placement, angles, timing. See how he checks his watch? He's timing the lunch rush. How do you know he's connected? Because we found him. Sterling switched to a different image. The same man, now in an airport, being detained by federal agents. Mason Reeves. Former military, honorable discharge, fell into private contracting. Works for whoever pays best. He planted the bombs. So you have the bomber? Case closed? We have the tool, not the person who hired him. Sterling's expression was grim. Reeves won't talk. Professional courtesy among contractors, they don't rat out employers. So we're building the case backward, following his money, his contacts, his movements. And while you do that, I'm supposed to hide here? You're supposed to stay alive. There's a difference. Sterling pulled up another screen, this one showing the estate's perimeter. This property has 27 cameras, motion sensors, armed security rotating in 8-hour shifts. No one gets in without authorization. You're as safe here as you can be. What about outside? I can't stay locked up forever. When you do leave, you don't leave alone. I or one of my team goes with you. No exceptions. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I didn't need a babysitter, but the footage of Mason Reeves scouting the coffee shop killed that impulse. Someone had tried to murder Dominic, had succeeded in nearly killing me, and they were still out there. Okay, I said. I'll follow your rules. Good. Sterling shut down the monitors. Now, come on. Mr. Cross wants you to meet Dr. Sarah Chen. Dr. Chen turned out to be a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and the sort of competence that made you trust her immediately. Her office was in a wing of the estate I hadn't seen yet, a full medical facility with examination rooms and lab equipment. Kai, she greeted me warmly, shaking my hand. I'm glad you agreed to see me. How are you feeling? Sore, tired, confused about why a billionaire has a hospital in his house. She smiled. Mr. Cross employs several people with medical needs that require ongoing care. It's easier to have facilities on site. Plus, given his line of work, having private medical access is wise. Right, because people try to kill him. That too, doctor. Chen gestured to an examination chair. I promise this won't take long. I just want to run some basic tests, check your healing, maybe draw some blood if you're comfortable. I hesitated. Sterling said you think I'm some kind of rare omega type. We think you might be what's called a null state omega. It's a condition where the standard presentation markers are suppressed or altered. About 1 in every 50,000 omegas has it. What does that mean? It means your biology doesn't follow typical omega patterns. Your heats might be irregular or absent. Your response to alpha pheromones might be muted. You probably don't trigger traditional alpha protective instincts as strongly. Everything she described was familiar. I'd always thought the suppressants were just working really well. And this is what CrossGen has been researching? For 10 years. Null state omegas often experience serious health complications, hormone imbalances, bone density issues, increased cancer risk. We're working on treatments to stabilize their biology without forcing them into traditional omega patterns. Why? Dr. Chen met my eyes. Because every omega deserves medical care that respects their autonomy. Because null state omegas shouldn't have to choose between their health and their freedom. The sincerity in her voice made my throat tight. Okay, I said. Test me. The examination took an hour. Dr. Chen was thorough but gentle, explaining everything before she did it. The blood draw was quick. By the end, I felt wrung out, but oddly hopeful. I'll have preliminary results in a few days, she said. But based on initial assessment, I think you are null state, which means we can help you. Properly, legally. Even though I'm not registered, your medical privacy is protected. What happens in this office stays here. She squeezed my shoulder. You're safe, Kai, in more ways than one. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in days, maybe years. Dominic found me in the library later that afternoon. curled up in a window seat with a book I'd pulled from the shelves. Dr. Chen said you did well, he said, settling into a nearby chair. She thinks I'm this null state thing. Would that bother you? If you were? I thought about it. No. It would explain a lot, actually. Why I never felt like other omegas, why the suppressants never seemed to work quite right. If you are null state, I want you to know there's no obligation to participate in our research. Your medical care is separate from CrossGen's work. What if I wanted to participate? Dominic's eyebrows rose. You'd consider it? If it helps other omegas like me? Yeah. I set the book aside. I spent 5 years hiding because the world doesn't have space for omegas who don't fit the mold. If your research can change that, I want to be part of it. Something warm flickered in his eyes. You're remarkable. You know that? Heat crept up my neck. I'm practical. You're both. He stood, moved to the window seat. Can I sit? I nodded, and he settled beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. I need to tell you something, Dominic said quietly, about the investigation. My stomach tightened. What happened? We found the leak. The person who gave information to whoever hired Reeves. His jaw was tight. It was my head of R&D, Dr. Marcus Volkov. He's been feeding intel to Helix Biotech for 18 months. Helix? Our biggest competitor. They've been trying to beat us to market with omega treatments for years. Stealing our research would put them ahead by a decade. So they tried to kill you. They tried to eliminate the one person who couldn't be easily replaced. Without me, CrossGen's board would panic. Stock would crater. Helix could sweep in with a buyout offer. Except I fucked up their plan. Completely. Dominic turned to look at me, and his expression was intense. Which means you're not just a witness anymore, Kai. You're leverage. If Helix knows about you, about what you are, about your connection to our research, they'll try to get to you. To kill me? To take you. Null state omegas are invaluable for testing, if they could get their hands on one. He didn't finish, but he didn't have to. Fear spiked cold through me. So what do? We stay ahead of them. Volkov is in federal custody. We're working with the FBI to build a case against Helix's leadership, but until we have concrete proof, you need to stay here. Stay safe. For how long? As long as it takes. I should have been angry. Should have felt trapped. But looking at Dominic's face, at the genuine concern there, all I felt was oddly secure. Okay, I said. I'll stay. Relief washed over his features. Thank you. We sat there as afternoon light poured through the windows, close enough that I could smell cedar and smoke, and I tried to figure out when this stranger had started feeling like safety. The answer scared me more than the threats outside. 2 weeks became 3. 3 became 4. The investigation into Helix ground forward slowly. Volkov had given the FBI enough to start building a case, but corporate espionage was complicated. Proving that Helix's executives had ordered an assassination required mountains of evidence. Meanwhile, I lived in luxury I'd never imagined. Dr. Chen confirmed I was null state and started me on a treatment protocol that made me feel better than I had in years. My energy increased. The constant low-level ache I'd attributed to suppressants faded. For the first time since I presented, my body felt like it belonged to me. Sterling taught me self-defense, how to identify threats, how to move through the world with awareness instead of fear. He was patient and thorough, treating me like a student instead of a burden. And Dominic. Dominic was everywhere and nowhere. He worked from home most days, his office door open, always available if I needed him. We ate dinner together every night, conversations ranging from books to philosophy to the ridiculous ways rich people spent money. He made me laugh, made me think, made me feel seen in ways I'd never experienced. It was dangerous, because somewhere between week 2 and week 4, I'd stopped seeing him as the stranger I'd saved and started seeing him as something else. Someone else. Someone who mattered. The realization hit me on a Thursday night, day 32, when I found him in the library, reading the same book I'd just finished. What did you think? He asked, looking up when I entered. The ending was bullshit. No way she forgives him after everything he did. She loved him. Love requires forgiveness. Love requires respect first. He never respected her choices. Dominic smiled. So, you're a romantic, but not a pushover. Good to know. I'm not a romantic at all. You saved a stranger's life. That's romantic as hell. I rolled my eyes, settling into my usual window seat. That's heroic. Different thing. Is it? He set the book aside, giving me his full attention. You saw someone in danger, and your first instinct was to protect them, to put their life above your own. That's the kind of thing romance novels are built on. Romance novels are built on fantasy. Real life is messier. Is this real life messy? His voice dropped slightly. Being here, with me? My heart started hammering. I don't know what this is. Neither do I. Dominic stood, crossed to the window seat. But I know I think about you constantly. I know I look forward to dinner every night because it means talking to you. I know that when Sterling updates me on the investigation, my first thought is always, how do I keep Kai safe, instead of, how do I win this fight? I couldn't breathe. Dominic, you can tell me to stop. Tell me this is inappropriate, that I'm your host, and this is a power imbalance, and I'll never bring it up again. He was close now. Close enough that I could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes. But I need you to know, saving my life gave me you. And I don't know what to do with that except want more. I'm an Omega. You're an Alpha. This can't work. Why not? Because society says so. Because the law says so. Because every message I'd internalized for 5 years said so. Because you're afraid, Dominic finished gently. I'm afraid too. Terrified, actually. But not of what you are, of what I feel. What do you feel? Like you're mine. Like you've been mine since the moment you covered me with your body and took bullets meant for me. Like I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. That's not love. That's debt. It started as debt, his hand lifted, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. It's not debt anymore. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him that I was leaving as soon as it was safe, that this was temporary, that we were from completely different worlds. Instead, I leaned into his touch. This is a terrible idea, I whispered. Probably. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Are you going to stop me? No. He kissed me. It was soft at first, questioning, giving me space to change my mind. But when I kissed him back, when my hands fisted in his shirt and pulled him closer, soft became something else. Became heat and hunger and a claim I felt in my bones. Alpha, my hindbrain sang. Ours. I pulled back, breathing hard. We can't. I'm. This is. Necessary, Dominic finished. This feels necessary. You barely know me. I know you're brave and smart and kind. I know you'd rather suffer than ask for help. I know you light up when you talk about books, and you hate injustice with a passion that makes you reckless. His forehead touched mine. I know enough. What happens when this is over? When I go back to my life? What if you didn't? I pulled back to look at him. What? What if you stayed? Not as someone hiding, but as someone choosing to be here, with me. As what? Your charity case? Your research subject? As mine. The word was rough. My partner. My Omega, if you'll have me as your Alpha. Panic spiked through my chest. You're talking about bonding. Eventually, if you wanted. But right now I'm just talking about trying. About seeing if this thing between us is real. And if it's not, then you walk away. No obligations, no strings. His hand was still on my face, grounding me. But if it is real, Kai, if this is what I think it is, then we build something together. Something that's ours. I wanted to say yes. Wanted it so badly it physically hurt. But fear was louder. I need to think, I said. Disappointment flickered in his eyes, gone almost before I registered it. Of course, take all the time you need. He left me there in the library, and I collapsed onto the window seat and tried to breathe through the panic. This was everything I'd avoided for 5 years. The claiming, the bonding, the loss of control. But it was also everything I'd wanted without knowing I wanted it. Safety, partnership, being chosen. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in my too comfortable bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. The answer came 2 days later, when everything went to hell. It started with Sterling. He appeared at breakfast, looking grim, pulling Dominic aside for a hushed conversation that made Dominic's expression go dark. Kai, Dominic said, turning to me, we need to move you, now. Fear spiked through me. What happened? Helix knows you're here. They leaked it to the press that I'm harboring an unregistered Omega, that CrossGen is conducting illegal research. His jaw was tight. The story breaks in an hour. Once it does, every regulatory agency will be looking at us, including the ones that enforce Omega registration laws. My stomach dropped. They'll come for me. Yes, which is why you're not going to be here when they arrive. Sterling was already moving, grabbing bags, issuing orders into his phone. Safe house protocol. Team 2, meet us at the secondary location. Mobilize in 5. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere they won't find you, Dominic said. Trust me. 20 minutes later, we were in an SUV heading east. Sterling drove like a man being chased by demons, which, essentially, we were. Dominic sat beside me in the back, his phone blowing up with calls he ignored. This is bad, I said quietly. This is manageable. But his voice was tight. They're going to destroy you because of me. They're trying to destroy me because I threaten their market dominance. You're just the weapon they're using. He took my hand. This doesn't change anything, Kai. It changes everything. If they connect me to your research, they can't prove anything. You've never been officially enrolled in our studies, your medical files are privileged. The most they can do is investigate CrossGen's practices, which will tank your stock, destroy your reputation. I don't care about my reputation. I care about keeping you safe. The SUV pulled off the highway onto a private road I didn't recognize. We drove for another 20 minutes before stopping at a cabin that looked small and normal and nothing like Dominic's estate. Welcome to the backup plan, Sterling said, killing the engine. Owned under a shell corporation, no connection to CrossGen or Mr. Cross, fully stocked, secure perimeter, off the grid. Inside, the cabin was larger than it looked from outside. 3 bedrooms, a modern kitchen, living space that felt comfortable rather than luxurious. You'll stay here until we sort this out, Dominic said. Sterling's team will rotate security. No one knows about this location except us. What about you? I need to go back, face the investigation, do damage control. He cupped my face. But I'll visit when I can, and I'll keep you updated. This is my fault. This is corporate espionage. None of it is your fault. He kissed my forehead. Stay safe. I'll fix this. He left with Sterling, and I was alone with 2 security guards I'd never met and a fear that felt like it might swallow me whole. The news broke an hour later. I watched on the cabin's TV as reporters swarmed Dominic's estate, as talking heads debated Omega rights and corporate ethics, as Dominic gave a statement on his front steps that was all controlled fury and careful denials. CrossGen conducts all research within federal guidelines. The Omega in question is receiving medical care in accordance with their rights. Any allegations otherwise are defamatory and will be addressed through legal channels. He didn't name me, didn't confirm or deny my existence, but the damage was done. 3 days passed, then a week. Dominic called every night, updates brief but reassuring. The FBI was building their case against Helix. CrossGen's lawyers were handling the regulatory investigation. Everything was under control. Except it wasn't, because on day 8, Sterling showed up at the cabin looking like death. What happened? I demanded. Helix made a move. They leaked Volkov's testimony selectively edited to make it look like CrossGen was conducting illegal Omega experiments. Sterling's expression was grim. Stock crashed 40%. 3 board members called for Dominic's resignation. The FDA is launching a formal investigation. No. My legs felt weak. No, this can't. It gets worse. Someone leaked your identity, your real name, your background, everything. He pulled out his phone, showed me a news article. Kai Morrison, the unregistered Omega at the center of CrossGen scandal. My face, my history, my presentation at 18 and subsequent disappearance, all of it laid out for the world to see. They know who I am, I whispered. Yes, which means you can't hide anymore. Sterling's voice gentled. But it also means you have choices. You can come forward, tell your story, help Dominic fight back. Or you can disappear. We can relocate you. New identity. Complete separation from CrossGen and everything that's happened. What does Dominic want? He wants you safe. That's all he's ever wanted. I stared at the article, at my own face looking back at me, and made a decision. Take me to him. I'm done hiding. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. Dominic looked exhausted when I arrived at CrossGen headquarters, but relief washed over his face when he saw me. You came. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you would, but I wouldn't have blamed you for running. He pulled me into his office, away from the chaos outside. You don't have to do this, Kai. I can handle. No, you can't. I cut him off. Not alone. They're using me to destroy you. The only way to stop them is to control the narrative. If you come forward, you'll be exposed, registered, everything you've avoided for 5 years. I know. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. But I'm tired of hiding, tired of living in fear, and I'm not going to let them destroy you because of me. Something fierce and protective flashed in his eyes. You're remarkable. I'm terrified. You're both. He took my hands. Whatever you say out there, I'm with you. We do this together. The press room was packed. Cameras, reporters, questions shouted before we even reached the podium. Dominic's hand found the small of my back, steadying me. He spoke first, addressed the allegations, the investigation, CrossGen's commitment to ethical research. His voice was controlled and commanding, the CEO fully present. Then he introduced me. This is Kai Morrison, the Omega at the center of recent allegations. He's here to tell his own story. I stepped to the microphone, my heart hammering so hard I could barely hear my own voice. My name is Kai Morrison. I'm 23 years old. I'm a null state Omega, which is a rare biological condition that affects 1 in 50,000 Omegas. My voice shook, but held. I presented at 18 and lost my scholarship to Berkeley because I didn't have alpha guardianship, so I hid. Changed my name. Lived as Beta for 5 years because the alternative was giving up my autonomy. The room was silent. Every camera focused on me. 6 weeks ago, I saved Dominic Cross's life during a bombing. I didn't know who he was. I just saw someone in danger and reacted. That decision brought me into his world, a world where people try to kill him for business reasons, where corporate espionage is normal, where saving someone's life makes you a target. I paused, met Dominic's eyes. CrossGen didn't conduct illegal research on me. They offered me medical care I'd been denied for years, treatment that's improved my quality of life exponentially. Doctor Sarah Chen and her team treated me with respect and dignity, and never once made me feel like a lab rat. My voice strengthened. The allegations against CrossGen are false. They're corporate espionage designed to destroy a company that threatens competitors, and I won't let my existence be used as a weapon against people who've shown me nothing but kindness. Questions erupted. I answered them mechanically. Yes, I'd been unregistered. No, I wasn't coerced. Yes, I was receiving medical care. No, I wasn't part of research studies. Dominic fielded the harder questions about CrossGen's protocols, about oversight, about the FDA investigation. We presented a united front. And slowly, gradually, the narrative shifted. By evening, the news cycle had changed. Opinion pieces defending CrossGen, Omega rights activists condemning the registration laws that forced people like me underground, medical ethicists praising the null state research. We didn't win, not completely, but we stopped losing. That night, back at Dominic's estate, because I'd refused to hide in the cabin anymore, he found me on the terrace overlooking the city. You were incredible today, he said, settling beside me. I was terrified. You were brave. There's a difference. He was quiet for a moment. The board met tonight. They voted to keep me as CEO. The FDA investigation is ongoing, but our lawyers think we'll be cleared within weeks. Because I vouched for you. Because you told the truth. He turned to face me. But it came at a cost. You're registered now. That can't be undone. I know, and I did. The moment I'd gone public, I'd triggered automatic registration. My designation was now on file with the state. I'd lost my invisibility permanently. But somehow, that felt okay. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you. Dominic's voice was careful. You can go back to your life, your apartment, your job, your independence. I'll ensure you're safe, but you'd be free. Or you stay, with me, build something real. As what? As partners, as Alpha and Omega, if you want that, as whatever we decide to be. His hand found mine. I'm not asking you to bond. Not yet. I'm asking you to try. To see if this thing between us is worth building on. I thought about the past 6 weeks, about bombs and investigations and press conferences, about Sterling's patient teaching and Dr. Chen's kind care, about dinners with Dominic and conversations in the library and the way my heart jumped every time he looked at me, about feeling seen for the first time in 5 years. Okay, I said, I'll stay. Relief and something brighter washed over his face. Yeah? Yeah. I squeezed his hand. But I have conditions. Name them. I finish my degree. Online if I have to, but I finish. Done. I work. Not at Brewhaven, but somewhere. I won't be dependent on you financially. I'll help you find something perfect. And we take this slow. No bonding, no claiming, just dating. Like normal people. Dominic smiled. I can do slow. Good. I pulled him closer. Because I'm terrified of what I feel for you. What do you feel? Like you're mine. Like you've been mine since I covered your body and took shrapnel for you. Like I'd fight the world to keep you safe. His laugh was soft and warm. That sounds familiar. Because it's true. For both of us. He kissed me then, soft and claiming and full of promise. And for the first time since the bombing, I felt like maybe everything would be okay. 6 months later, everything was more than okay. The FDA cleared CrossGen of all wrongdoing. Helix Biotech's executives were indicted for corporate espionage and attempted murder. Mason Reeves got 15 years. Dr. Volkov cooperated fully and received a reduced sentence. I enrolled in online courses at University of Washington, working toward the degree I'd lost at 18, doctor. Chen hired me as a research coordinator for CrossGen's Null State Omega program, a real job with real responsibilities and a salary that made me dizzy. Dominic and I took it slow, dated like normal people. He took me to restaurants and museums and the movies. I taught him how to cook and forced him to read my favorite books and made him laugh in ways his staff said they'd never seen. We fought about stupid things like whose turn it was to choose the movie and serious things like my tendency to hide when I was struggling, made up with kisses and conversations and compromises. Fell in love like people do when they build something real instead of rushing into bonding. And when Dominic finally asked me to be his Omega officially, 6 months and 2 days after I'd saved his life, I said yes, without hesitation. We bonded on a Saturday morning in his bedroom, just the two of us, no ceremony or witnesses, just his bite on my neck and my acceptance of a bond I'd spent years fearing. It felt like coming home. Now, 2 years later, I stood in CrossGen's research facility presenting findings from our Null State Omega study to a room full of medical professionals. Dominic sat in the front row, pride written across his face, Sterling beside him looking almost paternal. Dr. Chen introduced me. Kai Morrison Cross, our lead research coordinator. Morrison Cross, the name still felt new, but right. I'd gone from invisible to hypervisible in the span of months, from hiding to standing in front of hundreds of people representing research that would change Omega Healthcare forever. And it all started because I'd saved a stranger's life. After the presentation, Dominic found me in the hallway. You were brilliant, he said, pulling me close. I was nervous. You were perfect. He kissed my bonding mark, making me shiver. Ready to go home? Always. We drove back to the estate, our estate now, not just his, and I thought about how much had changed, how saving one life had altered the trajectory of my own completely. No regrets? Dominic asked, like he could read my mind. I looked at him, at my Alpha, my partner, my home, not a single one. And I meant it. Thank you for joining Kai Morrison's journey from invisible barista to bonded Omega researcher. If this story of bombs, corporate espionage, and finding love while saving a life touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it the bombing, the press conference, or the bonding? Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is dive down to save a stranger because you might end up saving yourself.